Is Jeff back on? Where'd Jeff go? There's Jeff. Jeff, you just have to unmute.
Yeah, here.
Jeff Munger, you need to unmute if you want to talk. Okay. Nope. Hey, Jeff Munger, you're still muted. Hey, Jeff Munger, are you ready to roll? Bill Kehoe?
President accounted for.
Okay, would you want to start the meeting, or if, I don't know what happened to Jeff Munger.
So he wasn't, it looked like he was unmuted. He was muted.
Yeah, I can't see him now. Can you see him, Nick? Jeff Munger? You may have, I think he's off now. You want to wait a minute for him?
Just about.
Okay. Happy week after your birthday.
Yeah, that was quite a day, believe me. Whoa.
No, I'm not. I can't.
Oh.
Yes, you are.
You can talk.
Okay, but I can't see anybody. I don't know why.
Take your, right on the right of the video, you have the mute button is a video button. Can click on
No,
that.
I'm just. It was Zoom meeting together. Let's see. The regular airport commission meeting for Wednesday, October 21st at 4:08 p.m. The second item is the agenda. Do I have a motion to accept or adopt the agenda?
She might know. I've moved to accept I moved to accept the agenda with a proposed amendment, which I will, after a second, I will present that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Wait a minute, whoa, whoa.
Oh, that's right. You need to make your amendment.
Yeah, I would amend, I assume the commissioners got an email from Commissioner Tim George with a proposed amendment, and I would therefore move to amend the agenda to include that change.
In the
I'll
min-
second that.
Or any discussion? Excuse me.
That's fine. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
public forum. Is there anybody, can you see anybody or is anybody on the line? Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. which I
Mr. Chair,
believe-
Jeff,
Huh?
there is two people in the attendee. Oh, I'm sorry. One is the town meeting is on, and then we have City Councilor Karen Paul on as
Oh,
well.
all right. Well, I didn't know that, so,
And Karen does have her hand up. Hannah, can you?
because I can't see.
It's okay. You've unmuted me.
Great,
I'm
perfect.
just here to listen and just happy to be here to listen to your meeting. That's all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Happy to have you.
Oh, Bill, you're the best. Thank you.
And who else was there, Nick?
Just Channel 17 is on as well.
Okay. All right. So moving ahead to item number 4, the consent agenda. We have already had the amendment to approve Tim's change to the minutes of our last meeting.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I didn't do that right, but
No, I didn't think so, but
so.
you're the guru on the Robert's
Mr.
rules.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose that the minutes be amended as recommended by Commissioner George. And I think this is the appropriate place to put it, not where I put it before. So after this is approved, I'll make another motion.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bill?
I don't want to get too technical, Mr. Chairman, but technically, my incorrect motion the order would be to reconsider that and delete that amendment. That's the way to officially to do it. But I would propose that the chair use some prerogative and delete my amendment and the incorrect amendment. So I would recommend that happen.
So do we need to vote on that, Bill, or it's just me?
But technically, all right, let's go. I hate to do this. It's my mistake, no question about it. Let's go back. Let's go back and reconsider the item that I incorrectly amended because I'm majority. So we need a vote on the reconsideration. So if we could have that.
So in other words, we have to go back to item number 2, the agenda.
Yes,
And we have to reconsider Bill Keogh's amendment. Is that
correct.
Do I have
So-
a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Helen.
Get it going.
All in favor?
I would move to delete the amendment as proposed in this item and refer to item number 4. Yep.
All right. So we just have to vote on that, correct?
That's all. Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, guys.
That's all right, Bill. Item number 4.02, Enplanements. Thank you for including that. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was this bad.
Is this the consent agenda?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Well, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I'll second that because it's just the minutes, correct?
It's just the consent agenda, which is really the employments report. That's the only item on the consent.
Oh.
no, the consent
I'm sorry.
agenda had the minutes and the
Right.
employments.
Helen, you're right.
Oh, okay.
So do I have a second? I heard.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm interested in just to hear from, Gene and Nick or whoever, just to, obviously we can see the employment numbers, but if you could just talk us through that and sort of, is this totally in alignment with what the rest of the country is seeing? So I don't know if we should discuss that now, or I'm fine approving the consent agenda and then discussing it, but either way, I'm just sort of interested to hear.
We'll discuss it now.
Okay.
Okay. That's actually, when I know it sounds bad, but it's actually better than worse, that it's been in the past. So it's actually, we've come up to around 3,000 a week, and sometimes it's close to 4,000, which is really nice. But yeah, your instincts are dead on. It's not great, but it's better than it's been. Good news is I heard something today that the TSA for the day, I think, has hit 1 million or something. So that's a good thing. That it means that traffic is building. Certainly, people are trying different things to be successful, and building confidence. The BTV was one of 3 airports that had the COVID testing, and now there's 13 and many, many more. And the more that we do things like that, the better off I think you're going to see these numbers go. So I'm confident that we will have worse days. I'm very confident we're going to have better days, and people have to feel comfortable with what they're doing. And certainly the airlines are doing everything they can to help people feel comfortable. And flying certainly is safe. It's just, where do you go when you fly? And you can't, round trip to Vermont, you go to New York and back and just don't get off the plane. But it's, I guess you'd have to quarantine then, I guess, for 2 weeks. So that wouldn't make any sense. But anyhow, that's roughly what they are. And actually, I feel really good about our numbers. I'd like to see around 5,000 a week. And if we had that, that would be a good number for the airport.
Gene, do you think, this is Jeff, do you think that given the explosion of COVID cases nationwide, that we could actually see a little bit of an increase, or should we be prepared for another dip?
You should anticipate another dip. Our numbers as far as COVID cases are equivalent to what they were in July. And in the United States. So even though it looks very red, it's equivalent to that. I do think it's going to get worse, and they're highly recommending that people don't cross the lines, for the holidays. So that could certainly hurt our numbers. But I do know a lot of people with testing will feel more comfortable, traveling. It goes back down to the honor system, that we have here in this state. Many of the other states don't seem to care as much as Vermont does. And the results are pretty evident. So I think the answer to your question, Jeff, is that we will, we're going to see some better days, and we're going to see some much worse. I think we're going to get potentially down to 1,400 in some weeks. Pre-Christmas is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, I know, I just got through with my quarantine and went and had a test, which was negative. But just because I went to Massachusetts for a weekend.
I will say one more thing on the testing. I'm sorry, Bill, I know you're going to slap me here as far as the not going off topic, but it has to do with Enplanements. We did, as you know, we opened COVID testing here last week. And since then, we've got 2 people that had tested positive that would not have otherwise been, tested, so they came in just to do the test and they were positive. So then they go to the next test. So, when at the press conference, I talked about if we just get 1 person that doesn't spread it to 100, it has been successful. So we did better than that. We have 2, and it's been less than a week.
I have
No, go ahead, Helen.
I just have a question going back to when this first started, and I think and I may have just misunderstood, but at some point, I think you said that the airport needed to have a minimum of 19 flights a day in order to meet some FAA standard. Now, is that sort of by the wayside now, and they use a different management tool?
Nick, do you want to address that?
I'm not sure about the 19 flights a day. That doesn't spark anything for
Oh,
me.
that's what I remember hearing. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I could be
Yeah,
wrong
I mean,
too.
there's a couple of things that we're working on as far as employments go. Going back to kind of the positivity of it, we are one of the lucky airports that we have not gotten full service terminated from. There's a couple of New England airports that airlines are fully exiting the market from them. So we're lucky in that case. So that's a positive case for our future in employment growth. The schedule looks very consistent to what it has been over the last couple months, which is consistent with what Gene was saying with employments being around that 3,000 per week mark, which is equivalent to that 12,000 that you see on the monthly side. And then the things that, going back to your question, Helen, the things that we are making sure that we're following for the FAA, not regulatory side, but financial side, is when our employments go down, our PFC collection, of course, is very much reduced, as well as our AIP entitlement fund calculations. So we're following that very, very closely because we don't want this year to be the calculation. And going back to what Jeff was saying in the beginning, it's 100% consistent nationwide. So we're not, a segregated case here. We're with every other airport in the country fighting for that calculation moving forward into the future, so that we do get the 3.5 million or so entitlement funds in the future. That's the only thing I can associate with employment numbers.
Nick, I'm with Helen. I do remember the 19 flight number, but I didn't think it was daily. I thought it was a week in order to qualify for some FAA funding.
I did mention that, and I will try to quantify that. I mentioned that a few meetings ago, and I am having not quite I did say it, and I'm not quite sure how, if it was weekly or daily, but I thought it was daily. But I will try to, by our next meeting, have a better understanding of that for you. And I think it had something to do with our relationship with the airlines and what they had promised for service or something like that, or an agreement to serve the airport. So I'll try to dig into that and get you a better answer, Helen and Jeff.
Okay. Well, if it's not an important number, don't waste your time. I just was wondering how it all fit in.
The good news is that we've maintained our relationships with the airlines. I mean, I'd like to tell you that Burlington was more deserving than Manchester and anybody else. And we've been very lucky. We call them weekly and talk to them. And because of that, we really haven't suffered, and we continue to still be able to get to where you want to get. So I'm going to continue to do that. And there are several flights, a day that leave here. And I have not been notified that won't happen. I know that Frontier will be servicing, Florida. Other airlines like American have kind of shied away from those destinations, and they have other destinations. So I think each airline is taking their niche in the market right now to maximize their aircraft.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just change the subject briefly? Well, sort of.
Sure.
Anyway, I heard on national news that they showed a dummy sitting in an airline seat, and you were talking about how more you're safe. You're just a step ahead of being safe in a grocery store as you are in an aircraft because of the aircraft filters and the change of air. Of course, the other stipulation was that the middle seat be empty. So a lot of people are looking to go to Florida, and they're waiting for news like that, which would certainly increase employments. But again, that was only a study, and I'm sure there will be a lot more follow-up in the next 6 months or so. Just thought I'd share that. Thank you.
That was a bill, the one that you're referring to, that's a study that United Airlines did. And they're actually including the middle seat.
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
Yeah, and so, what they're telling you is that, you probably are extremely safe in an aircraft because of the ventilation. You still should use all your precautions, including, a shield. And, we had somebody come in yesterday with a Tyvek and a air system, so I mean, whatever your comfort level is, but I would say that you're very safe in an aircraft. The problem is, where are you going to go? Everything else is red, so you're
Yeah.
leaving green and going to where? So, if you do go to Florida, Shelby and I or Nick were having a fantasy about taking an aircraft down and, and going down and staying at my house, but we wouldn't be able to go out. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And if you do look at our numbers, you will see that the general aviation, we have exactly the number of plane employments that we did last year with general aviation. There's a lot of jets flying in and out of here. We're really lucky that a lot of other airports don't see that kind of activity. We actually are very, very busy, and I would say, I think you must see them flying over your place. It's very active here. So it's just a different type of business.
Thank you. Any other discussion on employments? All right, all in favor of accepting and placing on file the employments, say aye.
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 Aye. I guess we're up to Marie for the financial picture.
Well, hello, everyone, and I'm happy to provide an update on our financial position. You have in this month's package, I have put together the profit and loss for the month ending of August 2020, including the debt service coverage for August. Those things that it's a little, given the uncertainty of the revenues, it's easier to wait until I'm getting all the information from all of our customers and vendors in terms of putting together an accurate picture. So you have a few things like the cash position and the accounts receivable that are going to be through the end of September, because those are factual and known. As I'll go through the highlights, the CARES Act money is the same as I reported last month. We will be putting together a reimbursement monthly. The FAA does close down. They close down for about 3+ weeks at the end of their federal fiscal year, which is September 30th. They close early, and then I have yet to hear that they've reopened, but we'll be putting together a CARES Act reimbursement for September through them. And we will also be, the AIPs that we've been spending some money on our bigger projects will be going in for reimbursements on them as soon as they open up, which should be any day. The debt coverage score, which includes the CARES Act money that we got for July and August, we were at 1.48, which is a pretty comfortable number. Certainly, if we can target in that area, or even a little bit less than that, somewhere between, as long as we're above 1.25, we are meeting our debt coverage for the bond covenants. The revenues that we had for, well, I put July here, but I think I meant August. Revenues for August were $1,550,000 before adding the CARES Act grant monies, which we've added about $1 million for July and August. So our total revenues that we've collected through August, that was just a typo in the month, are $2.3 million lower than we took in a year ago. And I just wanted to give you an idea. The primary driver that you're going to see is just lower parking garage revenues. $841,000 lower. That's a lot of money that we're not going to be able to recoup. We just don't have the traffic coming in and out of the garage. Our rental car concessions, which is that's their busiest time of year, is the summer and the fall. And those were also we'll see quite a bit of lower for July and August, was almost $600,000 lower. And our CFCs, which are a component, that is a daily charge of $4 for every day that the car gets rented. That was also is reflected lower, about $300,000 lower. Landing fees are lower because the commercial flights that are flying, we have less flights. So we have less planes, the commercial ones landing. And so that's why we see lower. And the expenses year to date were 1.8, almost $1.9 million. We are trending right now a little bit lower than we did in the prior year. We're trying really hard to look at everything that we're spending and spend on what is necessary, spend on what is safety involved. We certainly have a lot of obligation to keep things running and running well here at the airport, and those things don't go away, but wherever we can manage those expenses and manage them a little better, we're trying very hard to look at everything we're doing for obvious reasons. The AIP, that is our grant receivable, was a net of about $1 million owed to us. You're going to see on that AIP receivable report, I'm showing we are going to owe the FAA, we're going to owe them $2.1 million. And they owe us money on the other active grant projects. For the properties, the 7 properties that we maintained and kept and pulled out of the grant, we call them the Kirby Cottages. Those are those 7 properties on Lily Lane. And we're going to be getting a bill from the FAA. We took them out of the grant. We will pay them back the grant. We also sold the properties in August. So you're seeing sort of the net of that activity on that statement. And as soon as we get a bill from the FAA, we'll be able to consolidate that and remove that. And just the last item on there is we had, as of September 30th, we had $15 million in our main airport account. And this is running higher than you would have seen in past years because we did draw down the revenue anticipation money of 11.1, but we still have adequate revenues in our account. And so that is a good thing for now. So I will take any questions that you might have on any of this or anything financial.
I have a question about pulling in or drawing down the $11 million. And is that, it's in anticipation that we will need it in the very near future? Or is it just easier to draw it down and just have it there? I'm just wondering what the cost is to have that sitting in an account and not needed.
That's a great question, Helen. And we drew down, we were able to work with downtown, and they were able to secure with Key Bank an $11.1 million revenue anticipation note. That closed in June of this past year. But one of the requirements was that we draw all of that money down at once, which is different than a line of credit, which you would maybe draw down as you need it. The cost to us, the interest cost is 1.85%, which is it's a very low cost of borrowing, and certainly one that lets me sleep a little better at night, knowing that should we need this money, I mean, when we went to get this money, we did some forecast. We knew we had some things that were coming up. We also did not have the CARES Act grant money secured yet when we went for all the approvals and going ahead to try to move forward with this. So that was part of the, in getting the amount of money and just making sure that we had money available should that come to be and should we need it. So far, as of yet, we have not actually needed to draw down. Or I should say we haven't fallen below that 11.1, but we might. So okay. We have it, we are safeguarding the assets at the airport. We won't be a financial draw on the city who pays all of our bills and our checks and our payroll. We won't be drawing on them and in the negative in our own bank account, if that helps.
Just one follow-up. So Oh, shoot. What was I going to ask?
Might I say something while
That's
you-
age kicking in here. Shoot,
Um,
I can't remember. I'll remember it.
Ellen, the reason we, and I'll just remind you all, the reason we took
Oh.
this out was to, to have a comfort level. It's hard to get money when you need it if you don't have any. And so we hedged, and it's a kind of an insurance policy, making sure we do make it through the year and we don't need to put strain on the city. We want to be self-sufficient as we can be. Certainly the city gives us the ability to do what we do. But, that was a planned exercise, what Maria is speaking about. This is very, and it has been shown to be very important, to our stability. We got a letter from Moody's this week, and we did not get downgraded, and it wasn't a grading opportunity, but they didn't, they spoke well of us, and a lot of the airport's financial planning. So I feel really good because not every airport is in the condition that we're in right now. And we're going to be careful, about moving forward and making the right moves. But what Maria is speaking about is merely an insurance policy to make sure that we make it through the other end.
Will the CARES money be available to pay back the cost of that borrowing?
We will not be, the CARES Act money is being used for our operational expenses. And if I needed to use it on the interest, I certainly could. I would not
Okay.
use it on repaying the balance, but we have sufficient.
No, I just meant interest. Yeah. Okay, as a cost of COVID in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. When we draw down for reimbursements, we literally attach, we upload invoices or the cost of the payroll, the salaries that we're paying, things like that. It's actually very literal expenses that we're applying for reimbursement on.
Great. Thank you.
Marie, this is Jeff. Is there a deadline that we have to use this CARES money by or obligated?
Within 4 years.
Oh, great.
That was going to be my question was the CARES money targeted for a certain amount of time? I get that we have it for 4 years, but was it meant to cover revenue shortfalls for a year or a certain number of months, or is that not clear?
We are planning on using that within this calendar year. And we anticipate getting another one as well, we're hoping. And we will tap into that as well. What we're trying to do is spread out what we have and not burn any one area. And so that's kind of what's happening right now. Maria is watching cash daily and reporting to Nick and Shelby. And so that is what is happening. And she's doing a good job balancing the beam here. But we don't want to burn up all of it. We want to use it in the way that is intended to be used. And then we will do the same. And again, we've hedged on what we've used to make sure that we can slowly make it through what we think is going to be a very challenging winter.
Yeah. Can you talk at all about other sort of expense reductions that I assume there's some sort of natural expense reductions that just occur given the dramatic drop off in flights? Of course, it doesn't correspond one-to-one, but anything you want to just share with us about that, Jean or Marie?
Marie and Nick went into when we did our budget, they sliced it pretty hard, but it's certainly worse than what we could have even anticipated. So we're probably going to need to depend on that CARES money. We were hoping that it would last longer, like into the end of the year or something, but it probably won't. But as far as cost reductions, we're just, the parking garage was a big one. And Marie, what else do you have out there? A list of things that we did.
So we slashed every expense that was reasonable for us to slash. We didn't slash things like de-icing or, there were things we didn't touch. But we slashed everything out, and we really said the obvious: travel and training. Other things that might not be so obvious but make sense right now. We're not doing the amount of marketing that we were doing. We scaled it way back, and we have a marketing contract. for 5 years, but we said we can spend up to the amount if we wish, but we told the firm we're going to slash this right back. And so we're spending a fraction of what we were spending on something like marketing. We've also cut back on some projects that we had thought, like some of the repairs, bigger repairs in the garage. We've done a lot of work over the years in terms of catching up on some of the deferred maintenance. And now we're really in the preventative maintenance phase for many of our items. And so again, we said, well, we don't need to do that today. We'll see how things go. And we're just going to push that off and see how the year goes. So there's all sorts of expenses like that we really just sort of stop and think, and what can we do without, where can we save? I know the team, Larry and the team are really looking to, we have some monitoring that we do with our stormwater and our UIC. We just rebid it. Those bids are being evaluated now. We're looking for places to save money where we can and do things, always looking to be smarter. So that's what we're doing.
And anything on the personnel side, like security or temp staff, that any reductions there or unfilled positions?
So
Maria, I'd take that one.
Go ahead, Shelby.
We
Just
have,
because
Go
my
ahead,
crew is largely customer service. We don't have any vacancies. There is one position that's posted right now. That's an operations position, which is essential. From the ambassador perspective, overtime has been dramatically cut, but no one has lost any hours. They have not been reduced, so they're still at a whole paycheck, just not as much overtime opportunities.
Shelby, Nick's job, we haven't filled. So between Nick and Kelly's and Rick Brown's job, we've kind of stretched those out, and we're trying to see, we actually are carrying a pretty intense load on the staff here. Everybody's working very hard, and we have more projects, but we're trying to, just take advantage of not rehiring Nick's position right away. I've not posted it. And so next time you see Nick, say thank you for doing 2 jobs. And also thank, Larry and Shelby. They've really stepped up to taking on a lot of those extra duties. So that right there is one savings. And when we can, we just stretch it out a little bit, Jeff, to get some savings.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question about the deferred maintenance, like in the garage or whatever. If we defer things till the following year, is it not going to cost more to fix it?
It actually isn't, Jeff. We had really done a significant amount of work in the garage ahead of time. And a lot of the work that we did were the cracks that in the garage, we did 3 thorough cleanings, and there was a lot of salt and residue that was helping corrode the garage. So we've done intense cleanings, and we're now able, with tools that we have, to keep the garage cleaner. And we've also cut it off so that the public can't use the whole garage. So it saves us a fair amount of time, but just getting the chemicals out of the garage is a pretty big deal. And so we've been, we did our crack sealing, and now we've got the chemicals out. So that's a pretty big deal.
So will those cleanings take place during the winter?
No, they happen in the early spring and late fall.
Okay.
And we use a fire hose, and I think we took out 43 40-gallon containers of dirt and chemical from the garage.
Because they're just going to get more chemicals over the winter, right?
Yeah, but this had built up over the years, and now we have a new vacuum that we pick up a lot of that, and I guess we're just taking better care. We realize that a garage is like a person, and it needs to be maintained regularly, and it has Shelby and her team and the maintenance folks have been working on that garage, and I think if you've been in it, you've probably observed that it's fairly clean.
Okay, any other questions about our financial situation?
Move we
Hearing none.
accept, we accept the financial report and place it on file.
Do I
I'll
have a
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, item 5.02, Larry, construction update. Great pictures, by the way.
Yes.
There. Okay, I'll keep sending some along as we move forward. All right, so I'll just go through this quickly. Item number one, the air cure apron rehabilitation. Phase 6 is near completion for the winter. So everybody will be, JetBlue will be back in its normal place, and taxiway Alpha will be able to reopen. We did receive 2.5, hey guys. We did receive 2.5 million of a grant of an application we did for 9 million for the entire phase 7. We didn't anticipate getting the entire grant, but you know, we're ready if they had money available, but we're moving forward that portion, and we'll start construction in the spring on the first phase of phase 7. Quick turnaround facility is complete. We're just doing some punch list items on the project. That place is looking great as soon as it starts being operated again. Taxiway Gulf phase 2, we will be completed in the next 2 weeks, you know, hoping for, you know, dry and warmer weather, because obviously pavement going down this time of year is tough, but with good weather over the next 2 weeks, that project for the winter Taxiway Gulf will open for the winter, so we'll have a full parallel taxiway. Airport master plan update. As everybody knows, over the last couple of weeks, we had final public hearings and public meetings. They went very well, and we are finalizing our airport layout plan and CIP, short, medium, and long-term initiatives in the CIP, which we've already met with the FAA on, and we're nearing completion of that. Nick, I don't know if you want to add any more to that.
No, I think we heard a lot of great comments and feedback over the 3 meetings that we had last week. We had a regional advisory committee, a technical advisory committee, and then a public hearing all last week. So we heard great feedback. We're adjusting a couple of things that we got mostly from the technical folks that has to do with our geometry and some of the taxiway systems out on the airfield, but it's been a 18 plus month project that's been really, we're really fortunate to go through one of these, because a lot of things have been updated to include some of the things that we've gone through over the past 3 months with COVID-19 hitting us, and sparked some different conversations that we've never had before, of course. But I think our next step is to finalize some of the chapters. They are extensive. We'll get those to you via our website, btvmasterplan.com, which you can log on now and view all those videos and some of the draft chapters over the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be producing a full master plan set, both with the maps as well as the documentation around it, and a couple of hard copies as well. If you would like one, just let us know. But we're in the final steps to the master plan.
Right. The hotel, the South Burlington DRB closed the hearing on September 15th, and the decision has been issued. And that project will move forward to determinant on, you know, the need and when the contractor can feasibly build it. And Valley West Apron, we didn't receive our final bill or our retainage request until just recently from finishing in the spring. That's being processed. We've already spoke about the parking garage, putting off some of those repairs that we had planned till next year or so. The terminal integration project, the consolidation of the TSA, we received 3 proposals last week. We received them in 2 parts altogether. which was a technical proposal and a price proposal. We opened the technical proposals. A group here at the airport is reviewing the technical proposals. Those technical proposal results will be reported on Friday, and the formal price proposal opening date. This is a process we have to follow from the FAA. So Friday, we will have pricing on the terminal integration project for the construction of that project. New security system. We are meeting actually tomorrow for a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and the FAA and operations to get that project going over the next several weeks. South Apron, I already reported to that, and under item 1, that's phase 7, which we received the grant for. We'll start that in the spring. Chamberlain School, everybody understands we received the grant for that. We have completed the review of the engineering fees and went through the independent fee estimating process and record of negotiation, and we've settled on a price to finish the engineering and get that project out to bid so we meet the deadlines of the grant and hopefully construction next summer for Chamberlain School. Noise monitoring equipment. We are preparing the RFP right now for the installation or for the supply and installation of those monitors. That's moving forward right now. Miscellaneous, I think pretty much all this reported before, with exception to, as Marie mentioned, I went out for competitive proposals for the next 3 to 5 years for stormwater and UIC permit management. That's sampling, analysis, and evaluation of outfalls around the airport. By an independent firm, I received 6 proposals, and the pricing looks very favorable, very competitive. So we should see some good savings in that. The only other thing I wanted to mention was over the last couple of months, we signed a long-term lease agreement with National Weather Service at the airport, which included about $500,000 worth of improvements to their space. So we're going through the design and the procurement process for hiring somebody to do that work. The engineering department is very busy. Any questions? Thank you.
Move we accept the report and place it on file.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We now have, Helen, if you have South Burlington seat update.
Okay, the only thing I have to update is that our meeting Monday, we did have as an item, but not for a huge discussion, the noise compatibility plan. And we were all asked to review it and send in our comments to Paul Connor and Kevin Dorn. And I sent in 2. One was, my understanding was that there might very well be some good collaborative work with Vermont Gas Systems and Energy or Efficiency Vermont, and it isn't mentioned in the plan. And I don't know whether that's by design, because the FAA, it's not their money. It would be some additional money, but the sense is that if you're gonna, be going through all those houses and putting in windows and whatever it is you're doing, it might be a perfect time to link up the owners with opportunities to improve the energy efficiency of their home and use other money to support that, their own and maybe some grant money. And the second thing, what was it? Oh, I was a little maybe confused or concerned with how the process for kind of identifying the first homes that would be worked on. I mean, I understand you're going to do a pilot, which makes total sense. And then you have to kind of check everything out to find out if it's a new build and it doesn't meet, the standards are high enough in the new build that there's nothing the FAA will pay for. But I just wanted to suggest that we look carefully at, those homes that have been dealing with the noise for the longest and are the oldest housing stock, as maybe being earlier on the list of homes to be attended to. And that's just, there's some language about how you really look at the three big communities, Winooski, South Burlington, and Burlington. And I understand wanting to make it fair, but I just think there was another component that wasn't necessarily reflected in the report. So I don't know who else is going to send in comments, but that's all.
Thank you, Helen. If it's all right, I can comment on a couple of those.
It's
Sure,
okay
go
with
ahead.
me. Ask Jeff.
No, it's fine.
So the pilot program, you're right, is a strategic path to make sure that specifically houses within contour areas are identified based on what type of build they are, year built, etc., so that we can confirm eligibility along that entire contour line. So we're looking at about 10 houses for that particular pilot program. And then for the your other comment there, thank you first of all for getting. I haven't seen it yet from South Burlington. I'm sure they're compiling, which is great. So when we look at the bigger years, which we're shooting for approximately 50 houses per year after this pilot program year, we want to identify specific areas as we outlined in the implementation plan, based on the essentially the total number of houses in each community and essentially a ratio within each community. So if there's more houses in Winooski in that particular year, more of that 50 houses, or the ratio of 50 houses, would go more towards Winooski versus South Burlington. And then exactly what you said, although it's not identified exactly in those words, if you're closer to the airport with those ratios in mind, you're most likely going to be contacted first. Theoretically, those are the houses that have experienced those noise levels for a longer period of time. So we're hoping to, and the FAA wants us to make sure that we're looking at the closest contour lines first. Again, keeping in mind those ratios where the allocations would be different. And then, of course, not everybody is going to be eligible. As we continue to do the acoustical testing, which that pilot program is going to help us out and identify those houses early on, we still need to do the acoustical testing and testing throughout the process. We're going to identify houses that are not eligible and or what they could be eligible for, meaning one of the other programs that are identified. I'd also want to just mention that we just received an updated noise compatibility program record of approval. What you saw prior to that was a couple of weeks, maybe a month, that Richard Doucette had recently approved about a month ago. One of the things that we've been working on is specifically the sales assistance and purchase assurance. Some of the language in his record of approval mentioned that the city or the airport sponsor needed to those programs except for the installation portion of it. This updated record of approval removes the entirety of that language and identifies that there's could be many funding opportunities, including the FAA, helping us, for example, purchase a house and helping with that funding. The homeowner moves sound insulating, which again, the FAA would help fund, and then reselling the house. Prior, the old record of approval did not identify that funding opportunity for us. Now it is identified, which is fantastic. I'll make sure you get a copy of that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Gene, looks like you're ready to tell us about the your director's report, and it says the rapid testing facility, which you've already spoken about a bit. So go ahead.
So we're real excited about that. You know, the Garnet partnership is, we believe it's a, a win-win for the community, a win-win for the airport, and certainly the flying public. You know, I think there's a lot of, you know, tension, a lot of anxiety, and this helps people feel more comfortable with, you know, what they may have run into. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. So we're hoping it will be successful. So far, it's been extremely successful. We have used it at the airport personally. I was the, you know, the test dummy on the day of the press conference, and which was nice. And then we had part of my report will be telling you that we had the FAA come, and they announced Friday they were doing an inspection. And it's interesting. Everybody wants to come to Vermont because we're green, but we don't want them because they're red. And so we have this conversation. And so what we did is Nick Longo put together a program over the weekend, which is really challenging to have a discussion like this with the FAA. But I talked to Gail Luttrell, who's in charge of New England, and let her know that we had some concerns. And so we had our team tested and her team tested. And so we felt like we were starting the inspection in a good and fair way. Plus, we asked people to wear masks and all protective getup, such as gloves and things. So the inspection, I'm not sure, it just ended. So I'm not sure how we did, but I'm anticipating we did very well. The team works really hard, and we've had a very good year, you know, working, painting, you know, keeping surfaces clean. I did a review with Nick latter part of last week, and things look really good out there. So I'm optimistic that we did well. We always learn something from these inspections, and Nick does a really good job, and his team, you know, communicating with the FAA. We have had our fair share of you know, activity here, as I said, with all the beta and, you know, being as busy as we've been. There's, you know, been some interesting things that have happened. And again, Nick has handled them and his team in the very best way, but they do involve a lot of paperwork. And so we will, as soon as we get that report, we'll give it to you all. And I'm anticipating that something we'll receive in the next week or so. Larry talked a lot about taxiway G, the parallel taxiway. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be opening this year. I'm thinking of doing a press release out there. I really believe, you know, it's been years in coming, and to be able to go to one end of the airport to the other is going to be, even if it's a blizzard, I would like to have a press conference out there because it's a pretty big deal for efficiencies, and it's a big development for the airport. So stay tuned for that if you're up to it. We also, at the very end of the runway, we have what we have for years have called the pit. A few years ago, we asked dirt to stop leaving the airport and to go into our pit so we could make it something. We're just finishing the elevations and things down there. So we have about 34 acres of good buildable area down there now. And in the next 2 weeks, it'll be finished up. And so it'll be something, when you look at it, it won't look like a rock quarry, other than it'll actually look like a pasture. So we're pretty excited about that. And we used our own resources, you know, to, and I would say our deal making, to keep our dirt here and use it for the benefit of the airport. We also have been working on some space downstairs. We'll be moving the Burlington PD downstairs. And upstairs, where their office is now, is where the weather folks, during our negotiation, they asked for more space. So they took the old police space, and we've renovated the new police area, and that was done by staff internally, and they've done a really nice job making that a better and probably safer place for the police, and it gives them a better location, I think, in the airport, one that we've had more problems, down by the rental car area. So I'm excited about the weather contract. We've been about 2 years in negotiating that. Nick and Larry worked really hard, and Shelby and Andrew getting us where we needed to be on that. We came really close to losing it. They were going to go down to the Social Security building and then a couple other spots in South Burlington. And then they ended up realizing they wanted to be here, but there were other folks negotiating that were manipulating the process. So we did win that battle, and they'll be staying here for some time, and we're excited about that. I don't know if any of you have been by the airport recently, but the Beta building is just outstanding. There were about, I think they put about $5 million into it so far, and it looks great outside. It looks great inside. It's just absolutely stunning to have that infrastructure here at this airport, and brought up to date, but not at the cost to the airport. And at the same time, to have a partner as great as Beta building electric aircraft. I mean, it's really, really, we feel so fortunate, and they're doing a really, they're hiring more people. They're fixing up their real estate. They have been terribly busy over the last few weeks, meeting some of their thresholds, and it's pretty exciting. Apron work around the airport, as Larry said, is coming to a close, and JetBlue will be going back in. That again is another project. We're just about, at least around the terminal, we're just about complete. If you remember, we were doing about 600 to 800 patches a year, and now we have brand new concrete out there. And again, thanks to the airport team for working hard, getting those grants and convincing this was a good investment. And they certainly have invested in Burlington, Vermont. So we're pretty excited about that. Today, Nick Longo and yesterday did winter training with his team. That's a pretty significant investment of time and effort, and it's something that they do pre every snowstorm. But we kind of are getting ready for that. We believe it's within days we'll have the first opportunity to use some of our new equipment, but we wanted to make sure that everybody was in sync. Nick did a really good job. The VGS that Nick and Helen alluded to, there will be a press conference, we hope, next week, and to talk about the relationship. Helen, I'm sure you will be invited, as well as Mayor Lott. And I know they're working on that. I want to thank Nick Longo for working so hard to come up with that solution. As you all know, we were stumbling. You got 90% of the way there, but we didn't have the 10%. And certainly the airport doesn't have it. So Nick really worked hard, and with some community partners, to secure this investment and bring people to the table, that this would be a win-win for our community. So I'm very, very excited for next week for the details of this to be announced. Next week that will happen. So we're pretty excited about that. I talked to you about FAA. We continue on the TIP project, which is the terminal integration project. As you know, we secured $10 million for that. And we have had conversations over the last couple of months to get additional dollars. And we're asking, for another 10. We're probably not going to get that, we've been told, but we will get, I'm hoping we'll get a chunk of that. We've, again, Larry and Nick Shelby have worked really hard to talk to the FAA and convince them, that this was a good thing for them to continue investing in. They were pretty satisfied at the 10 million, but we showed them, that the rest of it is very needed to finish that project. We also have a new bit of history at the airport. There's the Ethan Allen hose cart that for years was at the Ethan Allen Club and was housed there, but it was one of the first firefighting apparatuses that we had in Burlington, and that is now housed at the Burlington International Airport up on the second floor in the mezzanine. And that came in today, so we're pretty excited about that. Another element is that when you're out looking at the runway and you see any of our vehicles, there's now LCD lighting, LCD, LED? LED lighting, which really bright. And what it does, it's something that Dave Carmen, one of Nick's team members, recommended last spring. And we pulled it together, and those are being installed this week. So when there is a storm and you look at the LED lighting out there, it's blue and green. It's very bright. It'll be easy for the tower on cloudy, snowy days for them to see who's out there and what numbers are out there. So that's a new safety feature at the airport here, and we're real excited to see it working this winter. That is it.
Good. I just might add, I have flown out of BTV twice in the last 2 months, and I can attest to the cleanliness and care that you have given to really make the place clean and comfortable, and feeling very secure about that. We did experience not being able to get an Uber. We could have. It went from $15 to no, that isn't available, and it kept jumping. And at 65, I kind of said, no, we're not going to rent and get an Uber for 65. So we went over and took a taxi. But that's kind of one of those fallout things, I guess. You know, at 11 o'clock at night, there just isn't that much traffic. And
if that ever happens again, please let us know. Get the number of the Uber or the taxi. That would be good to know that that's what's happening and who's doing it. And I'll do it for 50.
And I also used I got my COVID test at the airport.
Thank you.
So I'm going to connect with them about one thing I think they should be aware of, but because it's new. But anyway, it was great.
And if
I had a
anything you
question
want to
about
share
that.
with me, I would love to help you out in anything that you need to do, that we need to do to provide the best possible service over there. It's a, it's a daily learning opportunity, for everybody, but we want to be the best we can be and give the best service.
Gene, I have a question about that rapid testing facility.
Yep.
How many do passengers know that it's there and how they do? And if so, what's the cost? I'm guessing it's not free.
No.
So it varies, and some people have insurance. And Helen, how much did you pay? Do you mind saying, or?
No, it was $175. But I apparently can go to Medicare and see how much of that they will reimburse. I don't know how much they will. I haven't gotten my receipt yet.
But I don't know, Jeff. I didn't get involved in their pricing and how people will know. I actually had a meeting with them today. Is they will all the screens at the airport will be populated, and I asked them for 16 2x3 signs for the jet bridges and for the common areas, just so that people would know they're there. Otherwise, they probably would not know unless you looked at my Facebook page. But or the airports. But we will have it on our splash page. We've been waiting for them to give us the approved package, and we haven't received that yet.
Okay. Any other questions for Gene?
Nope.
Now we have commissioner items. Anybody have any items they'd like to bring up?
I've got a couple.
Go, Bill.
Okay. There was a council work session on the public right to know. It was very enlightening. Of course, it applies to both our airport staff as well as the commission. Perhaps it's time for us to get a refresher course in the public right to know law. What the airport does, what the commission does or does not do, affects a lot of people in the area. I think we can do a better job if we're more familiar with this law. It deals with many important items like agendas, meeting minutes, executive session, and what constitutes an emergency meeting. That's one item. Second item, we had I think Nick referred to a consultant's report a week ago, and I was the only commissioner there. No other commissioners were present. Nick, is there going to be another presentation of that? It had to do with the master plan, the facilities, short-term development. That was important information, and I was the only commissioner there. Is there another way that the commission can be informed if they're not so? Because we got to vote on that, I assume.
Yeah, so all of that included the recorded presentation, the Zoom presentation, is on our website at btvmasterplan.com. So you can view the video as it occurred last week, all three meetings, the regional, the technical advisory committees, as well as the public meeting. That was our final public hearing for the master plan. And we're collecting comments, and we'll continue to collect comments, especially from municipalities, on adjusting some of the items in the master plan. But that essentially was the wrap up to the conclusion to the master plan process.
Well, can you send that link to the commission? I think
Absolutely.
It's important that we all look at that and understand that. It's too bad we didn't have any input as to some of the questions, but that's the way it is. So you can do that. All right, if you would, I'd appreciate that. And I'm sorry?
I was going to ask Nick, how long is the comment period?
We didn't set a time frame. We still have quite a bit of work to finish up our internal documents as well. So we worked with the regionals and the users of the airport. So we have well over a month before we can collect some items and incorporate them into the documentation. Obviously, we don't want to extend it too long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and finally, I would suggest that the staff work more closely with us on information. Commissioner Tim George has requested that the commission get a heads up on news releases before it gets to the public. Yes, I know there are other elements involved. The commission ought to be recognized as a member of the team. We ought to be informed about some F-35 issues when that's appropriate. And I'm wondering about who calls the airport with noise complaints and where they live. I think South Burlington might be interested in that information, and certainly I would. I'd like to see us get a monthly report on who complains about noise and where they live. We used to get a monthly report on airfares, but that went by the board. But this report on noise complaints would be, I think, valuable to us in the long run. But that's all I have for now. Go at me if you want.
No, Bill, I don't think so. Before we adjourn, I think the next meeting would be the 18th of November. That's the third Wednesday.
Jeff, anybody any comments on what I said?
No, I didn't hear anybody jump in there, Bill.
Oh, no, I would love to have the noise complaints, and I think that's good. I think whatever information, press releases and so forth is important. And I had one more question I forgot, and I wanted to know how many pounds of potatoes were harvested from the 440?
400.
400. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. I don't know if everyone's aware, but the garden was supporting the food shelves in the area, one of which was the South Burlington food shelf, and I thank you.
Thank you for calling us.
Jeff, I'm sorry, go ahead. Jeff,
Oh, I just wondering if people that looked at their calendars yet about the 18th.
the November 17th, the next meeting.
No, 18th.
Okay,
I think it's the 18th is a Wednesday.
okay.
I'm around.
So we'll set it for now, and if it needs to change, I'm sure Hannah will
Okay.
figure it out for us.
Well, we adjourn then.
Do I have a second?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all
Okay,
very
thank you.
much.
Take care.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
So I have a question. We got 99 people in the chat. Did we get bombed or whatever they call it?